Hey, what's up, everyone on YouTube? I am going to tell you about my newest book, but it's actually for everyone out there who is an artist that wants to make an impact with their art and have it known by everyone in our culture. So the story is really just for a small amount of people because not everyone is as ambitious as Van Gogh or David Bowie or Johnny Depp or Hemingway when it comes to their art, because not many people want to go down that road and experience those struggles to reach that level of fame with their craft. And to those who do, they know it's an insane endeavor and the consequences of it can be pretty shitty, for lack of a better word. And that's why this book, this short story, you can listen to in a really quick time and it'll speak to you. It'll speak directly to you if you finish it. It's hard to get people's focus. And that's one of the reasons why, from my own experience, when it comes to writing fiction, it's a huge, huge undertaking to try to become as well known as Stephen King and Hemingway and Hunter Thompson, all those cats, because a lot of it also has to do with luck and hard work. Meeting opportunity is what luck is. But to those of you out there who realize luck like that won't happen, at least not in the decades it may take to produce work that well known, your best bet is to learn a trade. And that's the message of this book. Because if you learn a trade, building something with your hands, and you're artistic like that, whether you want to become a famous musician or whatever, if you end up settling to pursue a career doing something that's still a craft and you get paid for it, it's way more likely to give you a way happier life. And you'll see in this short story that's pretty much the theme of it. It's that if you have an artistic trait that's super, super encompassing in everything you do, but you're not going to make money from it or get the recognition you want for doing it, you must have some type of way to channel that creativity into a trade that you actually make a living with. And if you don't do that, you're pretty much going to be one of those starving artists. And I know from experience that's really lame. So I hope this message reaches the right people I'm going to try to get it to. And yeah, enjoy that short story. It'll really click in your head. So thank you.
Satomi's arrival. In the mighty Kopet Corporation's boardroom, an island nation's wealthiest men hack in around a long conference table. They are the rulers of Jopan's ancient families that have dominated this land since it breached the sea. Some sit, reading and writing messages on their phones. Others try to relax, looking out through the wide panoramic windows at their city. On this March morning, the sky is blue, and the air outside is finally warming. But the first signs of spring are unnoticed by the oligarchs because yesterday, hell broke loose, and in the form of an earthquake. The earthquake rattled everyone's finances and shook each of their corporations to their foundations, but Kopet's was hit the hardest. Kopet's stability, so you understand, is critical to the health of their economy. But at the moment, all seem lost. Something unexpected happened. So, being the true controllers of society, they gather together, right here, to make sense of a miracle and decide what to do next. Masks conceal each of their faces. The old men's masks must be worn as they sit around the boat-shaped table. One mask, carved from wood, stares at another mask that resembles the face of a bear. A voice speaks with impatience. When will we know more about this girl, Satomi? The spirit of bears growls. As soon as she arrives. The wrinkly-skinned tycoon of countless industries says from behind a glossy wooden mask, It is hard to believe what I've been told she did. Another mask made with real human facial hair says, It is hard to believe, but what if it is the truth? Some old men curl their thin lips in response and shout their opposition to an outsider, especially a girl, being invited to sit at their table. Everyone is silenced when the mask with swollen cheeks whispers, I am indebted to her. My family is indebted. The eyes behind the masks look at each other through pinholes, and voices murmur about the uncharacteristic gullibility of the wind spirit. After a pause, their screamversations revolve back to the credibility of the information regarding Satomi. Suddenly, the only door in the boardroom swings open. The president of Kopet enters. Behind him is a tall man, arm in arm with a hunched-back figure. The hunched-back person's features are hidden under long black hair and a blanket. It's Satomi. She is helped into her seat by the tall man in dirty jeans and wearing steel-toed work boots. Are those really wings on her back? Asks the bird of prey mask. The billionaire on the edge of his seat doesn't answer. The president of Kopet calls his peers to attention. He shouts, Banzai! Everyone leaps from their chairs and shouts, Banzai in unison. They stand together, waving their hands up and down and roaring in confused excitement, because this is the young lady everyone says did the impossible. So they continue cheering even after their arms go numb and their voices are hoarse. Finally, they settle down as the masked president of Kopet takes his body weight off his handmade lizard leather dress shoes and sits. He waves his fellow clan elders back to their seats. Brothers, this is Satomi Nakamoto. The kid's face is bruised, and her left eye is swollen shut. A blanket towers above her head to conceal her wings. Satomi, we welcome you, muffles the president of Kopet from behind unmoving red lips. The mask has 2 dots painted black for eyes. These unblinking orbs look at Satomi's only eye with an unfocused gaze and asks, How are you feeling? My back hurts. Can I get a better chair? It's uncomfortable with these things. Satomi answers. Her blanket slowly expands and then contracts as the wings spread outward and then inward. President Masatoshi waves his index finger in the air to summon his aide. A single body with long legs rockets off from the row of staff wearing 2-piece suits. Bring Satomi-san a stool. President Masatoshi then turns to Satomi and asks, Would you like anything else? Satomi replies, No, I hope your flight and ride here were more accommodating, President Masatoshi asks. Yeah, thanks, says the young woman. You are informed of why you were called. Satomi slowly closes her right eye. Her head wobbles, and the men watch her struggling to repel a lingering yawn. As you have heard, the mama lizard's eggs at Fukushima were contained because of you. We must know how you did it. You saved the lives of countless people for generations to come. How did you cool the burrows? Satomi takes a deep breath and sighs. It's hard to explain. I mean, you can call it luck, or maybe stupidity. You can name it what you want. But somehow, I knew all along I had a reason for being the way I am, for being a creative. And because of that, I just happened to look at the problem you all created differently compared to everyone else. That's how I cooled it. The aide delivers the stool to Satomi. Satomi sits and faces the old man behind the mask. Without expression, the mask looks at Satomi. For your sacrifice, for your brilliant solution to cool the burrows, we will give you anything you want. But first, we must hear your account of what happened. We must hear your account before the representative of the Chrysanthemum clan arrives. He's due within the hour to approve whatever it is you desire as your recompense. Where do you want me to start? From when I went into the burrow and changed into this? Satomi flexes her raven-like wings in a loud burst as everyone hits the floor in fear. Everyone pokes their eyes above the table to gaze upon her massive wings in the morning light. The man with a yellow lightning bolt tattooed on his neck who had escorted her to her seat, was now covering her in the blanket. And went blind. A single black feather floats from the ceiling into a glass of water, as the masked men return to their seats. President Masatoshi's jaw closes, as calmness resumes in his boardroom. He says, "We don't understand your sacrifice. That's why we are asking you to explain what happened. Every detail, starting yesterday." "I'll start at the beginning. I'll start when I woke up." "Yes, please." "It was dark. I was unable to move my body. There was one of those damn things near me in my room." "For our records, can you identify those damn things?" the mask with black dots for eyes asks. "The lizard children." "And lizard children are?" "What we protect the public from. They're spirits with massive amounts of energy stored in them. Kopet harnesses their energy by making them spin wheels, distributed throughout Fukushima and the rest of our country. They're how we generate electricity to power our society. People far smarter than me can give you a better answer. All I know is, after that tsunami, I think any claim that says lizard children are the safest method of producing electricity is a lie. What do you think?" "Very good, Satomi. So there was a lizard creature in your room." President Masatoshi ignores her question, as did the other elites. "Yes, I had a nightmare, but I didn't know at the time that it wasn't real. I could feel the lizard creature about to enter my body. It was on top of me. I couldn't breathe with it on top of me. I had no control over my body. It was terrifying, but this fear was familiar. The memory of the feeling kicked off the idea, in my sleepy mind, that I may be having another nightmare. I had been having the nightmares, and the only way I had found, from experience, to wake myself up was to scream. Somehow my voice box was the only thing I could control when having a lizard creature nightmare. I thought that only having the power over my screaming was for some primordial reason. Maybe the connection between the brain and the voice box is thicker and more direct than other parts of my body? I don't know. All I know is when I feel a lizard creature on top of my chest, I can't gain power over my body except for my voice. And that morning was no different. So I screamed myself awake just as 4:30 arrived. I knew it was 4:30 because my alarm went off. I was so disoriented that I lay there for a moment. Then I realized that loud noise could be silenced with a tap. So I pulled myself out of my sleep paralysis and hit the snooze button like it was my coworker Hirotami's or Genta's face. Well, not that hard, because I knew I had to have the alarm working on Monday morning. The snooze alarm went off a couple more times, until I emerged from my warm cocoon blanket. I was basically awake once my feet were on the floor. I reminded myself that it was Friday. That cheered me up a little bit. But before I got too excited, I also told myself that just because it was Friday, it didn't mean my day wouldn't be dangerous. I accepted this reality, despite wanting to lie back down for another minute. But to avoid being homeless again, I pushed myself off the bed, walked to the light switch, flicked it, and looked up at the bulb. Photons wake up the brain quicker than a cup of coffee. Random fact. "Interesting," a voice from behind the white mask with two black eyes mutters, as President Masatoshi realizes there's truth to Satomi's statement. The girl with a swollen left eye continues. My day had started. It was just me, alone in my apartment at that early hour. That time of day is my favorite. It's the quiet that I appreciate. It's a gift, really, those moments when the world is out there, but I'm isolated in my own world. I sat on my couch and all the chaos of the world was gone. Well, not gone, but the chaos was distant. That's what peace is. Just distance from chaos. That statement makes sense after what happened yesterday. But excuse my interruption. Please continue, President Masatoshi says, as the clan elders comment to each other about this female squire and her overly maudlin self. I wrapped myself in my camel hair blanket. It's so coarse. My parents got it for me. I had to use it supposedly, according to my dad, to teach me his ideas of comfort. Who knew camel hair on bare skin is one way to do it? My dad's weird like that. Weirder than me. But he was right. It's really nice. Comfort can come from the uncomfortable. Anyway, yesterday morning was no different than any other. I hopped on my phone and waited until I was more awake by browsing online. That morning, the first thing I saw on my news feed was a post from Hirotami. "Who is Hirotami?" President Masatoshi asks. "He's a squire who is gonna get his 4th dent on his armor's shoulder pad soon. Anyway, his post popped up right at the top of my newsfeed. I wasn't happy to see anything related to that ass, especially at that hour. Thanks, Facebook." "Hirotami! That's because you don't like him," the mask with huge red lips and unblinking eyes asks. "I'll tell you exactly what I think about him and why. So I saw his post. Unfortunately, I also became aware of how 499 people liked his post, and over 200 conversations were generated from people who clearly have little insignificant lives because they're unfazed by what a piece of shit he is, or was at the time." "So you were angry to see his popularity. You closed out of the screen, I presume?" "No, I clicked on his video and watched him wrestling a buddy of his somewhere in someone's living room. I had to see who the imbeciles were that had commented, so I also opened the conversations. Right at the top, of course, was none other than Genta." "Genta?" "Genta is a 4-dent squire. He's gonna be a Green Knight soon. So his comment said, 'LOL, Hirotami looks like a bitch getting worked by Daizo.' I really hated Genta at that time, even more than Hirotami. After reading Genta's comment, I threw my phone on my chabudai, which was right in front of me. That's when things started to get strange. The phone flew out of my hand and swerved into the kitchen and hit my newest flower. I had been growing that flower for years. I had the highest hopes for that one being the one that I had fantasized about repeatedly, for bringing me recognition as a world-famous flower grower. My phone crashed into the vase and cracked it, and I heard the vase fall. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even throw my phone that hard. Also, when I threw the phone, it wasn't targeted in the direction of the vase. Clearly, my coordination was off from being in bed the previous 8 hours. I got up, raced into the kitchen, and saw the damage. I was shocked. My flower was crushed. I had no time to comprehend the loss because I had to go to work soon. I accepted the truth that my flower was dead. I told myself it was probably for the best. I told myself this was a sign to finally abandon my wacky dream of being the greatest flower grower of all time. It was my time to commit to the squireship. I cleaned up the mess and brushed my flower into the trash. That was the last time I'd ever see that flower, or so I thought. I boiled tea in the teapot. I sat, drank my tea, and ate some breakfast. Once I finished, I barely had enough time left to grab the trash. I dressed in my winter coat and left my little temple of peace. After 11 steps down the walkway, I turned around and ran back up to the door. I turned the knob and pushed 4 times to make sure the door was locked. I do this often. I have OCD. It's diagnosed. "After checking your lock, what did you do?" the co-pet president asks. "Dropped the trash bag in the can and got in my car, then raced off to the train station. I parked, walked 5 minutes, and joined the crowd waiting for the next inbound train. My timing was good, and within a minute the train arrived. Out of the half-dozen or so cars that spanned the platform, I picked the train car I thought the 3 wouldn't be in." "Please name the 3. "Hirotomi, Genta, and Akanari. I picked the wrong car. There they were, sitting in the car I chose. They got to sit because they're high dent count squires at Kopet, and the public is always quick to give up their seats for squires." First thing out of Genta's mouth was bullshit. "You still work here?" Genta asked. Once Genta kicked off the mean remark, the 2 others joined in. Hirotami added, "No, Satomi's last day is today." The passengers that weren't sleeping glanced at me. Out of respect, they hid their giggles. I said yeah, because I'd done a career's worth of work in 2 years, picking up the slack for you 3 assholes. "What did I do to Satomi? You're already bitching like a woman," Akanari said in a deep voice, with his eyes and thumbs on his smartphone. Hirotami threw a piece of paper at Akanari's face and said, "Don't talk to a lady like that." In between the 2 clowns sat a bearded man who was trying to read his cartoon magazine about a barely pubescent blue-haired girl who, for some unknown reason, is depicted nude in a shower. Akanari stopped playing his puzzle game and reached over the stranger with the beard and hit Hirotami. I decided to squeeze into the crowd as the 3 of them created another scene. "Oh, you're a knight," an old woman stood up and asked me. "No, you may sit, I'm just a squire," I answered. The woman replied, "There's no such thing as just a squire. Please, young lady, have my seat. Here's my business card, too. I clean homes and am well reviewed. If you're ever in need of help, Please remember me." I accepted her card and thanked her as she stepped around me and next to a man whose eyes popped out of their sockets when he heard I was a girl squire. I sat down and watched the Pacific Ocean from the window. The sun was rising in the distance. That same old sunrise, always there to brighten my day, despite the nonsense caused by those three fools that I could hear cackling in the corner. Satomi yawns and continues her story. We reached Kopet's entry, and the doors open. That's where the bullshit really ensues. "Flower girl, go home and grow flowers," Genta said. So I snapped back at Genta. "Calling me flower girl is a dumb insult. I'll grow a flower. It'll be the one coming up from the grave I put you in." He laughed aloud so obnoxiously that it interrupted nearby conversations. When we arrived at Kopet, we merged with the other squires and knights on the grand staircase that led to the entrance. Chaiko's little face with his thick, black-framed glasses appeared next to me, and with a shy smile he said, "Good morning, Satomi. You look pretty. Good morning, Genta. The ride in good." With a straight face, Genta said, "Eat shit and die, Chaiko." "Chaiko is?" President Masatoshi asks. "Chaiko is a squire who joined Kopet the same time I did, but he is unambitious. It's interesting, actually. Chaiko is a smart person. He is smart because he knows the bar is low, and most people can survive in our career by contributing very little. Many people don't like him, despite him coming from a good family, because they conclude the same thing about him." "Genta," Chaiko feigned a laugh like it didn't bother him to be demeaned and continued, "You don't need to say that. That's mean." His round face looked to me for support, but I kept going up the steps toward the gate. I was preparing mentally for the day. I was thinking about what tasks I needed to resume from yesterday's closing shift, and the tools I'd have to collect soon to begin today's tasks. "Hey, Satomi, are you growing any new flowers?" Chaiko asked with a nervous stutter. I told him that I'm always working on some flowers. "Chaiko should be asking you if you're growing a ball sack yet. You're going to need 'em if you're trying to get knighted someday. Everyone knows that," Genta said to me. "Shots fired, shots fired, shots fired," Hiratami says, with his hand cupping his mouth. "Damn, that's cold," Genta says. "There'll never be a girl knight. Genta is so rude to you, Satomi. You know you can't let someone take advantage of you in public like that. It encourages people like me to do the same," Akanari mumbled as he kept playing his stupid puzzle game on his phone. "It's genetic, asshole. We're born one or the other, male or female, and both sexes can do this job," I said to Akanari. "As for you, Genta, you vermin, I don't know how you have the balls to insult me. You have a pacemaker. That's because you don't have balls, so how could you? It's a foreign concept," that bastard with half a heart said to me. Then Master Kato, a tall, athletic knight, heard our bickering and shouted, "Cut it out, you two." "Did you and Genta stop?" the president of Kopet asks. "Yeah, of course. Kato-san is a master knight. We suited up in our locker room. I raced out to the training area with my laced-up work boots on, which adds about an inch to my height, so I feel even more important when doing my job in them. There's a sign on the poster board, next to the water fountain. It says to treat every day like it's your first day at Kopet. I follow this poster's message religiously. I began working at Kopet, I suppose, out of luck. I moved here from Tokyo. I left my home city despite my parents and siblings rejecting my proposal to move here and follow my dream of growing the most beautiful flowers ever seen by humankind. For years, I entered competitions with my flowers and tried to get recognition. I devoted so much time to my craft, but year after year I lost. I never won one competition. I lost so many competitions that I can't relate it to people because most people would have quit a few years in. But not me. I trucked on, loss after loss, and put more time into growing a new flower for the next competition. Finally, I ended up putting so much time into growing flowers and not working for money that I became broke. I remember the day I found myself on the streets. It is amazing how people in that circuit, I'll say, people who live on the streets, are also the kind of people who are quick to show you to comfort, or what is considered comfort to them, and help you find food. You learn who the people are to avoid and where they can be found, you know? Things like that. What I'm saying is that even that network has a hierarchy, and I couldn't fit in there either. But these people were unclean people. I didn't live with them long before I admitted to myself that I was in a lonely and unhealthy frame of mind. I had to do something drastic to shift me out of that depressive state. I went to the Workforce Assimilation Agency, and they directed me to Kopet's recruitment office, where I applied for the job. I was worried they'd find out who I was, about my family history, and about me being homeless.
so I was always very submissive and overly grateful. Gratitude has a lot to do with why I'm here. That, and like I said, believing in myself. The combination of those two things can be explosive, which I'm sure you can relate to.
The president remains still. His mask's eyes are fixed on Satomi. Satomi continues.
At 7 o'clock a.m., we began work. In the final minutes before 7, the group of squires sat around a table. This table had stacks of uncracked books about safety and papers with instructions on how to perform every one of our jobs. Next to these items were the slobs, week-old rice grains, dried soy sauce droplets, paper cups, and random tools. Akinari was quiet and kept thumbing his phone, trying to solve another puzzle. He was always solving puzzles and logic games on his phone, even when he should have been working. Genta broke the silence, which was typical, and said to Hirotami, "Saw your ass getting whooped on Facebook." "I choked Daizo out," Hirotami said, as he stood up from his chair. Genta continued, "Sit down. I watched the whole thing. You got owned in that video." Hirotami was adamant and wouldn't let it go. "No, after the video ended," Hirotami said, as he dropped his ass back in the seat. Genta laughed obnoxiously loud like a hyena, and because of his despicable laugh, heads popped up from behind cubicle walls like those rodents in the American plains when they're on watch. Chaiko joined in coyly with Genta's laugh. Big mistake. Genta heard this and stopped laughing. The long black-haired gorilla frowned and focused on Chaiko. Chaiko stopped smiling. He adjusted his glasses and resumed staring down at his phone. The lazy squire again avoided any conflict with that thick-necked fool. "You know, Chaiko, I'd rather have Satomi than you have my back if a lizard creature escaped." "Aw, come on, Genta, you don't mean that." Chaiko blinked through his large lenses. "Shut up, Genta. Don't put me in a shitty squire category. You think I'd want you in a tube with me if one escapes?" I barked. "Satomi, nobody wants you here," Hirotami said lazily, like the insult was said as a duty and the pimply-faced turd was exhausted from performing it. "You can shut up too. You act like you're the best squire at Kopet." "I am. I'm going to be a Dove Knight one day." "What's a Dove Knight?" Chaiko asked me, since I was the only squire to talk to him like he was a normal human being. Genta interrupted me. "They're the elite knights, you idiot. They combat mama lizards over in the production burrows. They're the best of the best. I heard from Headmaster Choki that Master Knight Dai applied last June and didn't make it. And I'm kidding. I don't have big enough balls," Hirotami said, either sarcastically or insincerely, in response to Genta's news. With that greaseball, it was hard to tell if he was being sarcastic or sincere. "Really?" I asked. I was surprised to hear Master Knight Dai didn't cut it. He seemed so thorough and was so knowledgeable about the trade. I longed to have his knowledge, and to think that he was not fit to be a Dove Knight. I wondered what the Dove Knights would think of my abilities. "Yeah, really, why do you care? Do you think you could be a Dove Knight?" Genta asked. "If I put my mind to it, yes. You see, if you put your mind to something, you can achieve it, even you. Some people sadly think their status is fixed." "Shut up," Genta snarled. He stretched his spine and talked to me at the same time with closed eyes. "Nobody is that positive. Stop your act. Can you imagine how badass those dudes are? To contain a mama lizard. Our job of containing lizard children is dangerous enough," Hirotami said. "I'm good," Genta said, exercising his shoulder muscles. "Killing mama lizards, huh, Satomi?" he asked, raising the pitch of his voice. "Dove Knights look at you like you're puppy shit, I bet. Can a grower of stupid flowers like you wrap your mind around that?"
Start of Satomi's shift.
The whistle blew. It was go time. "I don't need to. I worry about lizard children. Plus, asshole, my flowers are beautiful, not stupid. People that need them can benefit from them," I said. "Did she just say the word beautiful? Satomi, we told you never to use that word around us. It's gay."
Hirotami said.
"Sure is," I said, rolling my eyes. I didn't argue with them because I knew they'd just belittle how I look at the world differently. We shuffled single file into the Master Knight's office to talk business, and to eventually receive our orders. And additionally for me, act like I haven't been routinely insulted by higher-dented squires. The Master Knights sat at their desks. A few Green Knights leaned against the Master Knight's cabinet, and some sat in chairs. They stopped bullshitting back and forth and waited for us to bow to the Master Knight's supervisor, Haruto-san. In unison, we all bowed with our upper bodies almost parallel to the floor. Next, we bowed before the Master Knights before us, who were busy clicking away at their keyboards. Then we kowtowed to the Green Knights. Green Knights are under the supervision of Master Knights. Some Green Knights engage with a half-hearted genta. The rest looked up at me with the same expression as the day before, where they all slowly turned their heads away from me with squinted eyes. Green Knights always made me feel welcomed. I said good morning to those who made eye contact, but I wasn't respected enough by them to get a response. I heard Haruto-san talking to Headmaster Knight Choki in his office up on the mezzanine above the Master Knight's office. When it came to our job, Haruto-san interacted mainly with Headmaster Knight Choki. I was curious, so I glanced at what they were doing up there and hoped to learn about the day's plans. I thought I could use that info to help me prepare for the day. I was usually the last to know anything about our daily projects anyway, and eavesdropping helped combat that problem. I was out of the loop often because squires with more dents in their shoulder pads than me, like Hirotami, Genta, and Akanari, were clued in first, and they intentionally withheld work details from squires who had lower indentation count. Haruto-san's eyes scanned the papers that Headmaster Knight Choki held out. Haruto-san pressed the tip of his fountain pen onto the bottom of each document. After signing off what I know are all the Master Knight's completed duties from the previous day, Haruto-san poked his cigarette cherry into an ashtray, most likely blossoming with old butts, next to a ceramic tile with a ginger flower imprint. It was his clan's emblem, and Haruto-san salvaged it from off his great-grandfather's roof. If we had to go up Haruto-san's steps, it was not a sign of longevity at Kopet. Yes, I had been in Haruto-san's office. I'm the only squire to have been up there. I was up there because of my first day at Kopet. Haruto-san had to single me out and let me know he was my boss and I would always be his subject, so I knew the details of his office and I was familiar with the drill. I also knew how Haruto-san pointed toward his office steps when your time in his presence was up. Headmaster Knight Choki bowed and walked away, leaning on a strong leg the whole time. Headmaster Knight Choki was almost killed at work when he was a young squire. This happened to him before I was born, and everyone there knows the story. It happened at the LC-71A3 chamber.
How was the headmaster hurt? The masked president asks Satomi.
The way you'd imagine. A lizard creature got out when Headmaster Knight was on duty. Anyway, he doesn't walk in a straight line and never will. We waited at the bottom of the steps for him, all of us squires like excited puppies around an alpha dog. We bowed as he reached the office floor. He stepped into his office slippers and split through our huddle. You boys in Satomi, what do you all want? We trailed him to his desk. Headmaster Choki is a badass. You gotta watch this video of Hirotami getting his ass handed to him in a wrestling match, Genta said and held out his phone. I bought a YZF-R1. Look at it, Master Choki, Chico said. Hirotami didn't have a chance against Daizo. Here, you guys watch, Genta shouted over everyone talking, showing uninterested Master Knights and giggling Green Knights the video. Check out this level that I got to in Master Puzzles, Akanari said. No, I didn't. Genta's lying. Master Choki, I'm going to my jiu-jitsu tournament this weekend. Here's where it's at if you want to make it, Hirotami said as he presented a map on his phone. Headmaster Choki centered the lens of his reading glasses and viewed everyone's phone. Meanwhile, Genta floated around the room, annoying everyone like a gnat. Genta, calm down. Listen, you're working with Master Kato. Same with you, Satomi. I looked at Genta. Genta whipped his long hair back, and like the typical smartass that he was, ran his index finger across his neck. You're done today, girl. He smiled, and his eyes lit up since he made the Green Knights erupt into hysterics. I kept a straight face. I copied him and slid my finger across my neck too, but curled my finger and wiggled it on the same spot of my neck, animating a stuck knife. The day I get cut, the blade dulls, I said. The Green Knights hushed me. I faced Master Kato and said, I'm going to start the truck and clean your hammer, Master Kato. Thanks, Satomi, Master Kato said, facing his computer screen. Genta said, don't forget to clean my hammer. Due to me understanding my position, I was respectful and agreed to clean both. Before leaving, Headmaster Knight Choki said to me, Be safe, Satomi, and have a good day. Headmaster Knight Choki was the only knight that treated me with dignity. Actually, he treated everyone with dignity. Even that lazy Squire Chico. He was also the only Master Knight that answered every question of mine about the job. I told him thanks and bowed. I heard Master Knight Dai telling the squad that I'd be the first to get cut from Kopet, because I was scared of working next to lizard children. Behind me, from the end of the hall, I heard them all cackling at his joke. Mainly, I heard Genta's hyena laugh. I went to prepare for the workday as the whole room's laughter blended into discussions about the workday, which in a nutshell was like every day. Making sure the city's alarms worked in case lizard children escaped, securing lizard children's chambers, and combating any lizard children that tried to escape their chamber. That last one had a lot of rules associated with it.
Why were you the first to leave? Asks the mask with angry eyebrows and human hair glued on as a beard.
Lots of reasons,
Satomi responds. Satomi dead-ends her response. So President Masatoshi asks, "You left the Master Knight's office. Then what?"
I went out in the yard and checked the oil and other fluids of each of the Master Knight's trucks and started them, even Master Knight Dai's truck. After that, I started wiping down Master Kato's stone hammer. I polished the owl-shaped hammer. I wiped around the owl's eyes and beak and wondered why it was shaped like an owl, and why an owl's eyes are in the front of their heads and not on the side, like some birds. And how exactly from an engineering point of view did that hammer keep those damn lizard children inside their chamber? I continued wondering about different things of my trade as I opened the glass case where the extra hammer is stored for emergencies. Or in yesterday's case, for a half-hearted four-dent squire. From behind me, a loud noise scared me and shook the truck. I jumped and turned around. Hero Tommy was barking like a mad dog and had slammed his stone hammer onto the truck bed. "You asshole," I snarled at him.
At that moment during Satomi's story, she exhales smoke from her nostrils.
He ran away shouting, "Got you." I wanted to hurt him so badly. It wasn't long after that when I saw Master Kato and the other bosses step outside, suited in their armor. "You ready, Satomi?" Master Kato asked. "I am," I said. I walked around to the front passenger door. I knew Genta would be aiming for it too. If I placed my hand on the door handle first, he would try to swat my hand away. So I did that, and lo and behold, I saw the heel of his hand battle-axing down toward the top of my hand. I casually moved it a centimeter away, and he missed my hand. It's an insult in our trade if you are slow, especially slower than a girl, despite women having faster reflexes than men. But my point is that I made him feel slower than me. After he realized that I realized that, we locked eyes. "Get in the back. Women ride in the bitch seat, and four-dent squires ride up front," Genta said. I had to be humble, otherwise I knew I'd make a reputation for myself as being insubordinate and having a temper. So without a word, I leaped in the back seat. Once we were seated and driving down the highway, I spoke up. "Master Kato, remember last week I asked why our hammers are shaped like owls? I was wondering it again." Genta smiled ear to ear, and his cheeks glowed red. Maybe because he expected Master Kato to scold me for asking a dumb question. That had happened to me before in front of Genta, and he told me he liked seeing me humiliated by Master Knights. Or perhaps Genta was excited because he would hear an answer to a question he'd asked. "I don't know," Master Kato said, sipping his green tea and scanning traffic. "Any idea?" I asked him again. Master Kato didn't answer this question. Genta squeezed his eyes shut and opened his mouth wide with laughter. "Who cares? You and your dumb questions. It's Friday, Satomi." "It is Friday, Genta. You have any plans this weekend?" Master Kato asked. Genta exaggerated his weekend plans. I kept quiet. Master Kato drove us along a stretch of the tube. He powered on the beacon light above the cab, indicating we were Copet employees, on the job, and for people to stay clear of us at work. We drove down the alleyway that ran parallel to the tube.
"For the record, please tell us what you mean by tube." President Masatoshi asked the kid.
The tube is jargon we use to identify the conductor. It's a structure designed to deliver the electricity generated by the lizard children. Tubes sprawl out in a grid across the country, connecting businesses and residences.
"Continue. You were driving along a section of the tube."
"Yeah, he told us we were looking for chamber LC71A3, the infamous chamber LC71A3. I spotted the placard first. Master Kato shoved the clutch into park. He unrolled a large paper document over the steering wheel. You both look here. He showed us the profile of this lizard creature and its status. We learned that it powers the nearby hospital and neighboring highway. Genta, you ready for this? Give me that." He snatched the profile and rolled it back up. "This is an old lizard creature. LC71A3 has a history." "I know," Genta said, rolling his eyes. "Take Satomi and keep extra cautious. Be smart. Don't be stupid. I gotta go check on our next chamber coming up. I'll be back." We both hopped out of the cab of the truck, and I jumped in the bed of the truck to grab our tools. "You grabbed the secret weapon?" I shouted to Genta. He put his phone in his pocket. "Nope, little bitches do that," he answered, laughing that cringeworthy laugh. I jumped down and handed him his shield and spotless hammer. I told him to get out of my way so I could grab the turtle shell, which housed our only secret weapon. "Was wondering if you'd forget," Master Kato said while reclining in the driver's seat and reading something on his phone. "Not a chance. We have everything," I said, also grabbing 2 radios off the dashboard. I confirmed the radios worked, and that they could be heard in the truck's cab, then closed the door. Master Kato rooster-tailed gravel into the air until he was out of sight. I said to Genta that Master Kato needed to slow down. Genta said to me, "Must be in a hurry to get back to the shop to tell Haruto-san to cut your ass." To that I responded, "Nah, he's racing back to expedite my promotion. He's like, must go faster and blow red lights. No time to waste." Haruto-san must know how great a job Satomi does. You are so crazy, Genta, that hypocritical imbecile said. We reached the security gate where a rusted placard is indented with LC71A3 and hangs from the chain-linked fence. I unlocked the gate and we entered the fenced-in area. I closed the gate and locked it behind me. We proceeded along the concrete pathway that was lined with lanterns that were always lit. As usual, Genta was glued to his phone screen. Oh man, this chick almost falls out of a roller coaster. You gotta see this. I was thinking about the dangers we might face once we get to work in the tube. I approached the bridge's stone steps. I looked out at the green water and heard it trickling under the bridge, while simultaneously focusing on slowing my breathing to lower my heart rate. I was always nervous before starting a job. We reached the bridge that was decorated with metallic spheres on each wooden rail. The bulb-like structures were constructed of a material refined from lizard children after their birthing. The row of pewter-tinted petals unfolded the farther across the bridge we stepped, until where the bridge ended. Only two small brightly lit bulbs existed and were used to light the stairs. We crossed the bridge and continued on the dirt path until we reached the entrance of the chamber. Above the entrance are stone statues of two carp, one on each side, swimming under cherry blossoms. We stepped up on the marble platform and entered under a vaulted ceiling. Our heels echoed the whole time we trekked to the end of the tunnel. I had done this march for almost 2 years, and it still forced my senses to be on high alert. We continued deeper down the vaulted tunnel where it's dimly lit by incandescent bulbs spaced way too far apart. The closer to the lizard creature we got, the damper and cooler the air grew. We were within a stone's throw from the tube when Genta put his phone away and gripped the handle of his hammer so hard that I heard his glove squeak. He was the first to reach the glass. Genta looked in, then I looked in. And there, visible to anyone stupid enough to stand this close, was LC71A3. Seeing a lizard creature, for the 100th time, is like seeing a lizard creature for the first time. The brownish-green being's 2 legs pedaled away on the wheel. Its scaly feet with long claws kept moving with a stamina unseen in any other creature that's walked this earth. It's running, I said to Genta. That's the first thing we're trained to observe. Check, Genta responds. The second thing we're trained to observe was noted by Genta. Its eyes are closed. The leathery folds of skin concealed its eyes. Its nasty-looking scales grew right up to the base of the plates on its back. Its many plates shot out of its spine, and I could tell this one was mean and old, because its keratin plates were huge and sharp, and resembled the crenellations of a castle wall.
Crenellations? A wolf spirit in a mask with a long red snout asks in a muffled tone. This is the leader of a date clan. He is unfamiliar with this word.
A European castle wall, I mean. You know, the notches.
Satomi uses her fingers to animate the up and down shape of a lizard creature's plates. Of course. Continue. He says to Satomi.
Anyway, we measured its breathing and made sure the wheel was spinning. LC71A3, I remember, was operating fine and the cooler's flow rate was normal. Watch for stalling, Genta told me. When can I get a hammer, I asked. He closed his eyes and flashed his white teeth. So stupid. You have to be a man to have a hammer. I rolled my eyes because an idiot of this magnitude being left in charge was dangerous. I cupped my hands up against the tube and rested my nose against the glass and stared. The brownish gold semi-clear liquid kept rushing by the creature and cooling it. It also provided nourishment for the creature. You don't need to mock me. You can have a normal conversation with me, I told Genta. You're crying again. You're not a little girl. Oh, you are, he said. I've heard that from you 1,000 times. Get new material. I said to him for the 999th time. So why do we aim to hit right here when a lizard creature stops running on the wheel? I asked Genta. Because that's what the engineers came up with, he said. Yeah, just curious, I said. Why? Aren't you curious, I asked him. Yeah, but I don't ask the knights 500 questions a day until they're annoyed at me. You know, asking questions can make you look stupid. No, I answered him. Genta leaned on the butt of his hammer's handle and continued. If a knight doesn't answer you, you're not to keep asking your question, and you're definitely not to suggest solutions to problems when a knight has to come up with one on their own. And never, ever, ever come up with a way to do something different than a master knight's method. I know where this is going, I told Genta.
What was the four-dent squire inferring? President Masatoshi asks.
He was bringing up an incident from the week before, when I was on Master Knight Dai's crew. And I asked him if Haruto-san ever thought of bringing in cameras or paying people to study the way we could improve our swing of the hammer. You know, in order to get more powerful and ergonomic at hitting a lizard creature's glass tube.
What did the Master Knight think? President Masatoshi asks.
He told me to shut the hell up and clean his truck. I wasn't calling him out specifically, but Master Knight Dai took it personally.
I see. Did other Master Knights have similar complaints?
Yes, in fact, it was a big deal. One morning they called me in from the yard while all of us squires were practicing swinging hammers. In their office, they confronted me in a grand jury fashion to find out if I'd believed I'd be a co-pet knight someday. I don't like talking about that incident. All I know is that the master knights can be insecure, which doesn't make sense, since they're master knights and have all the authority. But what do I know? I'm just a girl squire from a criminal family.
Satomi, His Excellency is on his way here to thank you. You're much more than that. Now continue. After Genta suggests you not speak your mind so much. What happened?
I asked Genta if he was saying this to help me. No, I am saying this because if you pull the same shit on me when I'm a knight, I'm chopping your head off so fast. You'll do that because I'm curious, I asked Genta. Curious? Dumb, you're being dumb, he said to me. You're wrong. I'm curious and look at the world differently, I said to him. Pretty sure I know a little scummy squire doesn't need to correct me. You're dumb if you think you know more than everyone else. I don't know more than anyone else. That's why I ask knowledgeable people questions. There you go again, acting like you know more than me. I'm gonna be your knight soon, and then your master knight if you make it that long. Get in the habit of not correcting me. I'm not correcting you. I'm curious about things like when I asked Master Cato about why suppression hammers are shaped like owls. Yeah, exactly. You couldn't tell Master Cato was gonna drop you off on the street for asking? No, I couldn't tell. He probably doesn't know. And someone's lack of knowledge and their feelings about lacking that knowledge is less important to me than knowing the answer to my question. I'll ask you, what do you think? Why is it shaped like an owl? Don't you think there's a way to swing it with more torque? Engineers have answers, not you. Squires do what they're told and shut up. I can't shut up. I have a curious mind and that's how I operate. If I get cut from Copet for trying to come up with a new way to improve our job, then so be it. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel, Genta said. I don't. I'm curious. That's all, like I said. In fact, I was curious enough last night to look up what a lizard creature's eyes look like. No, you didn't, Genta said, in an anxious and aggressive tone. I did. That's impossible to get a picture of. Any camera close enough would break from exposure, and any living thing that can see it would die instantly. Right, but some engineers a long time ago let a lizard creature heat up, and they were so smart that they rigged up a camera aimed at a mirror. And that mirror was aimed far enough away from the lizard creature that when it got hot enough and opened its eyes, they took the photo. Let me see, I've never heard of this. I bought this article last night off Google Scholar. I searched for the image on my phone. You pay to read an article. I held up the photograph from the document. That's so psycho. They have those sideways eyelids. Nictitating it is. I read that their eyes are under their control just like ours are. So when they set their sights on what they're going to melt, they consciously do it. They focus like us mammals. He snapped a picture of my phone screen. You're talking. Oh, sorry, not sorry. I'm sending this pic to the boys and telling them I found it. How did nobody ever find this? Not even Headmaster Knight Choki showed me this. Its eyes are slit-like because they're in dim light their whole lives. Don't they go over their anatomy in the academy? Yeah, you scummy squire. But nobody knew about this. Well, educate me since you're Genta the Great Four-Den Squire. I've got another one that's been riddling me. If the main power goes out back at the Mama Lizard Burrow, and the main power is what keeps all the street-level lizard children's water flowing, what happens? Generators kick in and keep the Mama Lizards and the street-level lizard children cool. Kinda crazy to think about, but they're all kept inside and encased from the public by backup generators. I hope engineers have a backup for the backup generators. Some Mama Lizard's coolant systems operate automatically without generators, through natural convection. The hot water they produce from laying the street-level eggs forces cool water down on the eggs. And through the grid, I asked Genta, and he told me that was right. Have you been to the main generation plant, where the Mama Lizard's burrow is? I asked. Not in. Nobody can go inside Mama Lizard's burrows, except for Dove Knights. But I did walk by the hallway that goes to the control room where Misao-san was. And she was walking by me with their engineers and a bunch of supervisors. And she looked at me. I said hello to her and she said hello back to me. I told Genta he's a bullshit artist. She did. And Misao-san is...
Satomi suddenly pauses in retelling Genta's dialogue, because a deep drumming noise is heard in the hallway. The rhythmic low-pitched noise becomes louder and flatlines behind the door.